Today, we're going beyond just psychology. We're going to peel back the layers of the human mind and look at its core operating system, specifically, its most critical vulnerabilities. This is a deep dive into the predictable, almost invisible patterns that can govern our behavior, often without our awareness and certainly without our consent. Let's get started.
What if the most dangerous truths about human nature are the ones we desperately ignore? Your own predictable mind is the primary target. Why? This is the dark psychological paradox of dark psychological insights, a quiet analysis that grants you maximum defensive power. That right there, that's the key to everything we're about to unpack. The paradox is that by staring directly into these uncomfortable truths, we don't become more vulnerable. We actually gain an incredible defensive edge. So how does this all happen? Well, our brain is fundamentally built for efficiency. To get through a complex world, it has to create shortcuts, you might know them as heuristics, that let us make snap judgments. You can really think of it as your mind's operating system. It's designed to be fast, it's designed to be effective, but just like any operating system, it has backdoors. We're about to look at 5 of the most significant ones.
Now, before we go any deeper, let's get really clear on what we mean by dark psychological insights. This isn't some kind of magic or, random cruelty. We're talking about systematic, evidence-based conclusions from decades of real psychological research. What they show us is that manipulation isn't really an art. It's more of a science, one that's built on exploiting the incredibly consistent and predictable ways our minds are wired to work. And here's the crucial part. It's a pattern, and once you can see a pattern, you can learn to break it.
So here they are. These are the 5 levers we're going to be pulling apart today. And you'll notice each one is actually rooted in a very basic human need. The obedient shortcut, that taps into our survival instinct to trust authority. The illusion of free will exploits how our own desires get formed. The fragility of self-worth, well, that goes right for our deep-seated need for validation. The addiction to chaos preys on the brain's reward circuits. And the coherence trap, that one actually uses our desire for a logical, consistent world against us. Let's dive into how these shortcuts get weaponized. Okay, now we get to the real heart of the matter. How exactly does someone take a simple mental shortcut, something that evolved to help us, and twist it into a weapon? For each of those 5 levers, we're going to break down the specific tactic used and the almost automatic responses designed to trigger inside the target.
First up, the obedient shortcut. Look, since we were kids, we've been taught that obeying authority is a good thing, right? It keeps society running. Manipulators exploit this by using symbols, uniform, a fancy title, any sign of power. And this triggers something pretty chilling in the target's brain. It's called an agentic shift. It's a state where a person stops seeing themselves as responsible for their actions. Instead, they see themselves as just an agent, just carrying out someone else's orders. Their brain literally bypasses its own moral compass to avoid conflict. It's the exact mechanism that explains how good people can be made to follow absolutely terrible orders.
Next, the illusion of free will. We all like to think our wants, our desires, they're our own. But are they always? This vulnerability is exploited through a process you've probably heard of, conditioning. A manipulator will pair an external cue. It could be a sound, a specific phrase, even a place, with a really strong emotional state. And they'll do it again and again and again. Pretty soon, that cue is all it takes to trigger the emotion and the desires that go with it. What's the end result? You get an automated response that feels 100% genuine. The target truly believes they want something, when in fact that desire was carefully manufactured and installed from the outside. This is a deeply personal one. Our sense of self-worth is often way more fragile than we'd like to admit, and manipulators absolutely count on that. They use a vicious cycle. It starts with love bombing, just intense, over-the-top affection and praise. It makes the target feel seen and understood like never before. And then, like a switch flips, it turns to devaluation, criticism, the silent treatment, just plain cruelty. The target, now desperate to get back to that good phase, reacts. They might plead or get angry or just be totally confused. And that desperate emotional reaction, that's the fuel. It's what's known as narcissistic supply, and it's what gives the manipulator that feeling of power and control they crave. Ever wonder why people stay in truly toxic situations? The addiction to chaos gives us a big part of the answer. It's all about intermittent reinforcement. It's the exact same principle that makes slot machines so incredibly addictive. The reward, maybe it's a moment of affection or a brief apology. It comes at completely random, unpredictable times, mixed in with all the abuse. This unpredictability creates one of the most powerful bonds known to psychology. The target's brain gets hooked on chasing that high of the reward, creating this compulsive drive that can completely steamroll the rational part of their mind that's screaming to get out.
And finally, we have the Coherence Trap. This one is all about cognitive dissonance. See, the human brain hates holding two contradictory ideas at the same time. It's incredibly painful. A manipulator creates this exact state by saying, "I love you," right before or after doing something abusive. Now the target is trapped. Their mind is screaming. To fix this painful contradiction, it has to change one of the beliefs. And you know what's often easier? It's easier to justify the abuse. "Oh, I must have provoked them," or "they're just under a lot of stress," than to accept the terrifying truth that someone who says they love you is also intentionally hurting you. And just like that, a false but coherent story is created, and the manipulator is protected.
Okay, so we've seen the how, we've seen the mechanisms, but why does this whole dynamic work so well? This isn't just a random collection of dirty tricks. It's actually a collision between two very powerful and very different motivations, one driving the target and one driving the manipulator.
You can boil the entire conflict down to this one slide. The target isn't weak or stupid. Not at all. Their brain is just doing its job. It's trying to be efficient. Relying on shortcuts like trust the person in charge or believe your loved ones reduces mental workload and stress. So the target's motivation is cognitive efficiency. The manipulator, on the other hand, is driven by a need for impunity and control. They see this operating system. They get it. They know that by hijacking these very same shortcuts, they can get predictable, automatic compliance. It lets them do what they want without facing consequences. It is a devastatingly effective strategy because it turns the target's own evolutionary strength, their efficient mind, into their greatest vulnerability.
Understanding all of this is step one, but it's not enough. Now we need to shift from just analyzing the problem to taking action. So, how do you build a defense? The answer is about moving from those automatic, unconscious reactions to a conscious, radical awareness. This is how you reclaim practical autonomy over your own mind. So, how do you defend against that obedience shortcut? Simple but not easy. You have to consciously, deliberately assert personal responsibility. Before you follow an order that feels even a little bit off, you have to stop. You have to consciously reject that agentic shift. You literally have to say to yourself, "This is my action. I am responsible for its consequences." That one thought, that one act of will, it reclaims your moral autonomy and it short-circuits the entire mechanism.
To fight back against conditioning and that illusion of free will, your best weapon is the pause. Just a moment. When a powerful, sudden urge or desire pops into your head, you have to create a deliberate space between the feeling and your action. And in that gap, you ask one critical question. Where did this desire come from? Is it really mine, or is it just a response to some external cue? That simple act of questioning, that pause, it breaks the automated loop and puts you back in the driver's seat.
To counter the assault on your self-worth, the defense has to be an inside job. You have to consciously do the work to internalize your sense of value, to make it independent of what anyone else thinks or says. When your worth isn't up for negotiation, when it doesn't need external validation, that whole cycle of love bombing and devaluation, it just loses its teeth. You deny them access to your self-esteem, and in doing so, you cut off their emotional fuel supply. Game over. Breaking that addiction to chaos, man, that requires a conscious rewiring of your brain's reward system. You have to actively choose to prioritize consistency over intensity. You have to teach yourself to value the quiet calm of stability more than the dramatic high of chaos. Every single time you choose a predictable, stable interaction over an unpredictable, intense one, you are putting that addictive cycle on what psychologists call an extinction schedule. You're literally starving the addiction to death. This might be the hardest defense of all. To escape the coherence trap, you have to learn to embrace the raw discomfort of the truth. You have to be willing to just sit with that painful feeling of holding two opposing ideas without rushing to make it better with a convenient lie. The goal is to consciously choose the messy, difficult, painful reality over the comforting, self-deceiving story. It's about choosing short-term pain for long-term freedom and clarity. So we've walked through these dark patterns, we've looked at the defenses. What's the real takeaway here? It can feel pretty heavy, maybe even a little scary to look at these mechanisms so directly. But this kind of knowledge, it's not meant to be a source of fear. It's the raw material you need to forge your shield. So let's bring it all together. First, remember that these 5 dark psychological insights reveal the predictable nature of human vulnerability. This isn't personal, it's a feature of our shared mental operating system. Then,
Remember how the pattern works. All 5 of these insights, from the obedience shortcut to the addiction to chaos, exploit our brain's natural need for efficiency. And finally, this is how you win. Awareness breaks the automated loop. By embracing radical awareness, by consciously choosing the difficult truth, you build the only shield that truly defends your autonomy.
And that right there is the most empowering idea of all. You are not a victim of some unique personal malice. You are a target of predictable psychological patterns. And the truth about those patterns, no matter how dark it seems, that truth is the only real shield you will ever need.